Good morning you guys, it's Karen, and I have been asked many times to do another video on Ehlers Danlos. I did one video, I think it was one, maybe two. Anyway, the one I did that I'm thinking of was called Ehlers Danlos and pain relief, and I had so many lovely emails and comments from normally young girls actually that had found out they had this, that were encouraged by my video, and every single one of those made me smile, and I tried to reply, and it continued on because that video is probably a year or two old now, and the replies and the comments kept coming. And like I said, a lot of them were asking me to do another one, but I wasn't really sure what to do another video on. So I thought what I'd do is give you an update on where my health is at the moment. It may not be the best day for me to be filming this actually, because I'm feeling a bit down about it, and I've been in a lot of pain over the last week and a half. But it's all real, and I know that that's, you know, I'm not giving up yet, so hopefully it will still be interesting and useful to you. And I also thought I'd talk about my diagnosis, because I think since my last video, I had been diagnosed by the rheumatologist and the physiotherapist in my last video. Since then, I've seen a geneticist. It can't have been long after that if I hadn't already seen them. And so I thought I'd talk about that briefly. So where to begin? Let me give you a quick background and talk about my diagnosis, because I know that a lot of people want to get diagnosed. I was never that fussed about having an official diagnosis, but I've now kind of learned from some of you guys that it is important, because you want to have a label on it and you want to be able to join a support group and things like that. But what I wanted to say to perhaps young girls that are saying I want to get a diagnosis is, don't think that when you get a diagnosis it's you have this, therefore I can give you this pill, or you have this, you can see this person will make you better. Ehlers Danlos is basically, it's a connective tissue disorder, but it's a collection of symptoms, and you will be treated regardless of whether you have the label of Ehlers Danlos, and mine is hypermobility type, that's what I'm talking about. But regardless of whether you have that label or not, you will be treated for the symptoms, which is joint pain and digestive problems and bladder problems and things like that. I will talk about that more in a moment. So don't worry too much about that. But for me, I had knee problems. When I hit 33, everything went wrong. Now, I'd always had a crunchy knee. I'd always had some bladder issues, as in I got cystitis when I was very young. Excuse me, I've got a glittery eyeshadow on and it's starting to itch. And I'd always had digestive problems and problems swallowing and things like that. And it was something that ran in our family actually. I knew that my mum had also bladder issues and swallowing problems, as did my nan, even at the end of her life. So we just assumed it was something genetic, but it wasn't a big deal. But like I said, at 33, everything went wrong. So I went to a physiotherapist, and she asked me, she said, can you do this? And she asked me to bend my little finger back, I can't remember which one it was. And she said, oh, I think you're hypermobile. Excuse me. I'd never heard of this at the time, so I went home and looked it up. I tested myself on the Beighton scale. I'll link to the Beighton scale for you in case you want to test yourself. And I seem to score high on it. So the physiotherapist has said to mention it to the GP, which I did. And they sent me to a rheumatologist who confirmed that I did have Ehlers Danlos hypermobility type. That was really the end of it. The rheumatologist was not much use to me. He basically sent me away and said to buy some capsaicin cream, or gel, which is like the stuff you get from peppers. It just warms up your joints. Saying that, I might try some of that on my knee today. Excuse me, keep coughing. I've definitely got something going on here. So yeah, that was pretty much it, other than I got a lot of referrals to specialists because of all the problems I had. Because of my swallowing problem, I went and saw an ear, nose and throat doctor, and I had a tube down my throat and everything was horrible. And I was found to have a little bit of something was soft at the back of my throat, but it's not particularly life-threatening, so it's fine. And I have these kind of episodes of breathing, of choking, which is what had happened in my family, in my mother's side. I went to the urologist because I have basically permanent cystitis. I've talked about it in my other Ehlers Danlos video, I think, and I've ended up in hospital with really bad bladder infections, but also with really bad pain with no sign of bacteria, etc. And that is also to do with the Ehlers Danlos, and I'm on medication for those issues. Who else did I see? A neurologist because of the migraines. Who else? I don't know. I've got a lot of referrals to a lot of different people. An orthopedic surgeon. I had surgery on my knee. That's arthritis. I have arthritis in most of my joints. So I've been to a lot of specialist appointments. I know that last time I spoke to you, I was saying that my kind of goal was to push through the pain and to try and just manage with all of the things that I had found that were helpful, and all of those things still apply, and I'm still using most of those things. I think I showed you the Kinesio tape. That is just, I couldn't live without that. I couldn't live, obviously. I couldn't move around without that. Like yesterday, my knee has been really painful for the last week and a half, which I'll talk about. That's, I suppose, the biggest update. And yesterday I plastered it in Kinesio tape, then I put a knee support on, and I was able to go for a walk with the dog. The things that I have found that are new are, I find that using aspirin instead of ibuprofen is more helpful to me. I'll talk about some things that I found that are helpful pain relief wise at the end, but continuing with diagnosis, I left the NHS last year. Some of you may know I was working in the hospital in medical research, and I came across a research project that I wanted to be part of, and it was for Ehlers Danlos, hypermobility type, and Kinesio tape. So you can imagine I was desperate to be part of the study. I kind of knew that I probably wasn't a good candidate for the study because of my bias in that I already believed in the Kinesio tape, so I wasn't completely... I already had knowledge of it and I already believed it worked, so I would be somebody that it probably would work for. But anyway, I got in touch with I was meeting with the person who was running the study, and I said, you know, I'd like to be on this study. And she had a look at my records and said, you haven't got a genetic diagnosis of Ehlers Danlos, so you need that. So she said, come to see me. She's a geneticist. So I had a clinical appointment with her and went to see her. And she told me that she went through a whole lot of questions. She did some more tests with me, and she told me that it would be genetic, that it would be either my mother or father, and if they had lived in the area, then they would have been tested, or they would have, you know, she would have asked to see them to figure out which one it was. But I was pretty sure I knew who it was, and I explained about my mother's problems with, she's had a bladder prolapse, and that my nan had similar problems. My nan had digestive problems, and that the whole swallowing problem, and she said definitely, yeah. So it sounds like my mum and my nan, that's the line it's come down, if you like. And my mum doesn't see any point in going to get diagnosed with it now, but she does have many related problems. Actually, the last time I spoke to her, I'd asked her again. It would be useful if she got diagnosed, because then I'd know for sure, but in a way I don't really need to know, because I'm convinced that's where it comes from. But she was going to look it up on the internet and see what she thought. So I got a letter from the geneticist with my official diagnosis, and it hasn't changed anything at all. And ironically, I didn't end up going on the study simply because I thought it was running at the hospital I worked at. It wasn't. It was running at another hospital, and that would mean it was about an hour's journey. You needed to be there for 2 hours, so it was about a half a day, and you had to go like a couple of times in a week for about 3 weeks. And I didn't have enough annual leave to take off work for you. You didn't get time off to go on studies or anything like that. So I didn't end up going on the study, but I had the official diagnosis. Like I said, it made no difference to me whatsoever having that official diagnosis, and hasn't made any difference. I was already in the system with all of the other issues I've had. Update there. By the way, I will link my other video or videos, I can't remember whether there's one or two, because that will give you the background to what I have and what's been going on with me. I probably should have watched the video myself to find out exactly how many things I did tell you about in that video. I think I probably told you about my headaches, and they were, I think when I left the NHS, which is a year, well, it was a year ago I left the NHS, but I had been working from home for them for nearly a year. And so before I started working from home, I think the headaches and the migraines were the biggest thing I was struggling with. Those have not gone, but they are much better, much milder. And the reason I think that they're much better is because I'm not sitting at a desk. As soon as I was working from home, it meant that I was sitting at home and not driving, because driving, when I'm driving like that, makes my neck tense, and that would cause me a migraine. But also I could be sitting at my desk, and if my neck felt tight, I could go into the living room and use my foam roller. I can't remember if I showed you this ridged one before, but this one is fantastic. So I put this onto my neck and sort of move my neck around and roll my back over it, and that would seem to prevent it getting any worse, you know. Or I could, you know, stop and make a phone call and walk away from my desk. It was just much easier working from home. So that combined with the fact that I wasn't in the office, I wasn't as stressed, and certainly since leaving the NHS, I've been working from home for myself and not as stressed, and I think that's played a big part in not having such bad migraines. Or it's not having such bad migraines. There's two elements. One, I used to get what I call my suicide headaches. I only got those once or twice a year. Touch wood, I haven't had any since leaving the NHS, I don't think. I've maybe had one. Anyway, that's good that I can't remember, because it means then there's certainly, I can't say, oh yeah, it was on this day, you know. And then the other element was that I had a headache every day, and that is much, much better. There's a lot of the time now I don't have a headache. I am still on my codeine. I do take codeine every day, paracetamol and aspirin, but that seems to keep it at bay, and I'm on a lot less of a dose than I was on before. My bladder issues are much the same, to be honest. I do occasionally try and reduce my amitriptyline. I'm on 20 milligrams. I sometimes try and reduce it down to 10, but as soon as I do that, I can't sleep for needing to get up for bladder pain, and that's the symptom that the amitriptyline controls. So I'm still happily taking that, and I think I now just know I'll take that for the rest of my life. And I could probably do with taking more. I did get offered 25 milligrams and took 25 milligrams for a while, and it didn't seem to make that much of a difference sleep-wise, but neither did it make much of a difference pain-wise. Maybe I'll ask for 25 milligrams and give it a try. But what I mean by that is I still am restricted by my bladder, as much as my knee, in that with my knee I had built it up until a couple of weeks ago. I had built it up that I could walk for an hour and a half. I even managed 2 hours one day walking the dog. That was unheard of. I think, if not when I last did the video, then 2 years ago when we got Watson, I could only walk for 15 minutes, and I was often upset because we could only go for a walk for 15 minutes. Then a year later it was half an hour, and I was upset because we couldn't go for longer. I'm now, a week and a half ago, before this pain started happening, I'd got to the point where I could walk for an hour and a half. Not without pain afterwards, but I could manage it. However, with the bladder, it was agony. And if I drink less than 2 hours before I leave, so today I'll go for a walk at 2 o'clock, and my alarm will go off at 12 to say don't drink anything between now and leaving, but have a drink now as your last drink, if you like. It's a real fine balance of, if I had something to drink, then I would need a wee whilst walking, and it's agony. It feels like I've got acid in my bladder, so I have to be really careful with that, and we have to really plan when we go for walks. We always check whether there's toilets there. If there's not, I have to go to, you know, we have to stop at the nearest toilet, whether that be in a hotel or in a supermarket or something like that, so that I can go, and like I said, and make sure I don't drink anything before I go. I have to, though, make sure I have had a drink 3 hours before I go, because if I get dehydrated at all, again, I can end up with a really bad bladder infection, or the pain from it anyway. So I would say that things are about the same, which I would say is manageable. I would like to be able to go longer without getting that pain in my bladder. I can sometimes go for hours, and there's no pattern to it. I haven't yet found a pattern to it. I can sometimes go into town, meet my friend for lunch, and walk around for 2 to 3 hours and not need the loo. Not very often, but it does happen. And there are other situations where that happens as well, and I don't know what I do on those days that makes it work. I'm trying some drugs called Urestomol that I found in Boots. They definitely weren't available last time. I'll link those for you on the Boots website, because I have been taking one of those recently, and I think they maybe do give me a little bit more longevity. I don't have any incontinence or anything, by the way, although I did do a video of me on holiday and said that I laughed and a little bit of wee came out. And although I was joking, that is what happened, you know, so I suppose in that way I do, but that rarely happens, thankfully. It's more pain that I have. It's more like the permanent nerve damage. So not much change there. Then what was the other thing? My knee. My joints, I do feel like every year something else hurts. And so I had plantar fasciitis, I think, when I was talking on the video last time. I haven't had that since, but I now have heel spurs, which is just a different version of that kind of pain. It's just a different area in my foot, and that's very painful. But the weird thing about that is it's only painful when you're resting. So it's caused by walking, but then when I sit down, say I sit down for an hour, then when I get up, it's very, very painful. But as you walk, it sort of eases off, although you are supposed to rest it. You know, my elbows, my tennis elbow and whatnot is has got more painful, but I use my Kinesio tape for everything, and I use my Voltrol gel for everything as well. Somebody has mentioned on an old video that Movilat gel is pretty good, and that's aspirin based, so I am definitely going to try that because I do react better to aspirin than ibuprofen. The biggest change for me is in my knees, and if I'd have been filming this 2 weeks ago, which in fact I did film a video on Ehlers Danlos 2 weeks ago, but I watched it and it was pretty much identical to the last one. It wasn't just giving you an update, it was going over the whole thing again, and it was just too long. I would be saying that I would be being very positive and saying, unbelievably, my knees have got much better, because Ehlers Danlos is a degenerative disease. It is something that does get worse. And I couldn't believe that I'd managed to get up to walking for so long with Watson. I don't do it every day. I maybe do it every other day or maximum 2 days in a row. And I was just so chuffed. But I don't know whether it's that that's caused me the pain. But a week and a half ago, I woke up in pain with my knee. It wasn't after walking. Ironically, that week I hadn't done any walking with Watson because my husband was off work and he took him for walks and he was in daycare and whatnot. So it was a week where I hadn't done much walking. Whether or not it was that delay and then the inflammation come up, I don't know. But I woke up and was in a lot of pain, and that was a week and a half ago, and I'm now using a crutch. Not all of the time, like I just walked to the kitchen and back and it was fine. But last night I sat down, was chatting to Kev, stood up, went to weight bear, and it was just agony. If I've got any message for you guys, it's, although my last video was saying, you know, you can do it, you can think through it, you can get through the pain, etc. I would say to take it easy, which is something I don't do and I don't know how to do. I'm an all or nothing girl, and you know, when I managed to walk for 1 hour, I was like, oh, let's just walk for another half an hour, and then I was in agony. I should not push it that far. I shouldn't push myself too far, and as a result, I'm now in this terrible pain. So I am going back to the doctors on Tuesday. I don't know that there's much that can be done. I will probably get a referral to the orthopaedic, which will take 12 weeks. There's a 12-week waiting list. I don't imagine they'll be able to do anything else because I've had the operation to put my kneecap straight. I've had an operation on my right knee to put my kneecap straight, and they cleared up the arthritis. That was 5 years ago. I don't think there's much else they can do. I'm hoping I might be able to get cortisone injections. I was due to have my left knee operated on, but it is still not as bad as my right knee. Although my right knee was better after the operation, it's still the most painful of the two. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And like I said, I think I've just pushed it too far. For my knee, what I have found that is really good is this. This is a knee support. I have tried so many knee supports over the years and never found any that are comfortable. They all, you know, when you put them on and they either dig in or they roll up, they just never helped that much. But this one has been super comfortable and very helpful, to the point of, I think, it's not a good thing in a way, because I wore this last Thursday. I woke up in pain, and that's, what day are we today? Tuesday. A week past Thursday I woke up in pain, and I wrapped my knee up in Kinesio tape more than I would usually use, and then I put this on top and I was able to go for a walk. That probably wasn't the most sensible thing to do. It was what we called family day because my husband was off work. Really what I should have done is stayed at home, and he should have taken Watson for a walk. But that's what we'd planned. That's the kind of thing that where you have to find a balance. And for me, I just would have been so sad to not go and at least try. And like I said, this made it possible. This combined with the Kinesio tape. But in the long run, I don't expect that that's a good thing, because it will have aggravated the pain and it's not resting my knee, you know. And I again used this yesterday. I was in a lot of pain yesterday, but I put my Kinesio tapes on all the time, and then I put this on top, and I went for a walk and I managed to walk, but then by the evening I couldn't weight bear at all. So in some ways it's good, but I would say if you get something like this, use it for special occasions. Don't use it every day, because it will mask the thing that you're supposed to be protecting. Like, in a way, if you can feel the pain, it will stop you doing something, if that makes sense. But this is a brilliant one, and I will link it. I got it on Boots. It was expensive. I think it was £30, maybe even 40. But really, really good. It's got sort of silicone gel there as well. So if you're doing any kneeling, this is good as a support. It's just, and it's so comfortable. It doesn't roll, it doesn't move, it doesn't dig in. Really, really good. Apart from that, I've not really found anything else that I can think of, other than I think I showed you my foam roller that's got the nodules on it. Instead of using the plain foam roller, I use this under my neck and back. I also sometimes use a massage cushion. I'll link the ones that I use for you, the massage cushion. I'll link that foam roller and this knee support. I'll link some Kinesio tape for you as well, because the one I use is the Tex Gold or the one from Boots. Those are the only, no, the one from Boots is the only one I'm now not allergic to. I used to be allergic to the Kinesio, the Tex Gold, let me think, the black one. But if I got it in, I can't remember the colour I got it in, that I was okay. But all the ones from Boots I seem to be okay with. I know that that's something that a lot of you have found, that you're allergic to some of the Kinesio tapes. Like I said, the ones from Boots seem to be fine. I take antihistamines daily anyway. Digestive wise, I take lansoprazole and a Zantac daily. And that seems to keep my indigestion at bay. Occasionally I get a bit of bad pain in my chest, but it's normally if I've eaten something rich, you know, eaten some rich food or something. Hey you guys, I'm back and it's a completely different day, but I suddenly remembered that I hadn't told you about these slipper insoles that I use, and I wanted to show you because I know how much of a pain it is to not just be able to put on a pair of slippers and wander around the house. You want something cozy in the winter. You don't want to have to wear your shoes with orthotics. So this is what I do, and I think it works really well. You buy a pair of, I wondered what that noise was. It's Watson drinking. A pair of slipper socks, but these are just, they're socks with rubber bits on the bottom so that they grip the floor. And then I put my insole inside of the sock, and that works really well. It does mean that a few times during the day you have to sort of pull them into the position, you know, because your socks do slide around a little bit, but it just means that I can walk around the house as if I'm wearing slippers, and it makes it much more comfortable. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that. I think there's much more to update you on. I would love to do more of these videos that would be helpful to you, and I just was never sure what kind of videos would be helpful. I thought about perhaps doing one on shoes, but I don't know how many of you with Ehlers Danlos have to wear orthotics, because I feel like over the years I've managed to find some good shoes and boots that not only hold orthotics and are okay with orthotics, but they hold my foot in. And I think that's a key thing for me with my knee. Like today, what I should be doing is wearing, I've got some slippers with orthotics in, and I'll show you those if I do that video, and I should be wearing them around the house so that my feet are not dipping in and so that I'm not aggravating the knee pain. But I'm pretty bad at doing that. But if that kind of video would be useful to you, let me know, or let me know what kind of video you'd like on this. You know, I can maybe go through each sort of area if you like maybe do Ehlers Danlos migraines, and I can talk you through all of the solutions I've got for that, because I've got a list that I pull out when I've got a migraine of things that I do that help, that I find really useful. And I found some new videos, some mouth massage that works and things like that. So let me know what kind of video you'd want, and I'm happy to do that. But I thought it'd be interesting to you to have this update, and I will talk about the what happens with my knee and whatnot on my vlogs on my Patreon channel and on Snapchat. If you don't want to join Patreon, then I do talk about everything on Snapchat. So and also in my monthly favourites on my beauty channel, I give a kind of updates as to what's going on. So probably in that update I will let people know what's happening. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I will try my best to answer them, and I will speak to you soon.